Hello and welcome back to Naomi's Scrappy DIY Retreat. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you are a return subscriber, I appreciate your patronage. If you have not subscribed, I hope that you'll hit that subscribe button and let's get started. So I am using those three buckets from Dollar Tree. I found those actually in the wedding section, and we're going to be making 3 crafts out of those 3 buckets. So all I did was I picked up the little cotton balls, I picked up twine, I picked up a Christmas tree, wasn't sure what size I wanted, and then I also picked up a buffalo check hat, and then I'm just going to be using an assortment of markers and brushes and that sort of thing, and then also some beads. Wasn't sure exactly which one I was doing, so that's why I have out everything. So I'm just going to clear the space a little bit, and then let's go ahead and unwrap those buckets. And I just wanted to use something that everybody could find in their Dollar Tree. You can find these over where all of the craft items are for the weddings. So just go ahead and cut your styrofoam, get your styrofoam ready to be cut. I tried with the little Dollar Tree X-Acto knife and it did not work, so I had to go ahead and get the big boy knife out and cut. It was just too thick for the X-Acto knife, so I checked again to make sure which tree I wanted, and I went through several different trees, which I ended up editing that part out because there was no need for you to see me trying to figure out which tree. So I did go ahead and choose the larger tree for this little bucket. And so all I'm doing then is I am actually gonna clean up my area. It always frustrates me when I have stuff all over the area. I love this little gadget. It is so fun. It's and it's got little brushes on the bottom just so that way it cleans up. Look, it even works on its own on a hard surface. It's so stinking cute. Anyhow, I will link that below in the description as well. Runs by batteries, has a little built-in area to hold your stuff, and then you can just quickly toss it out. So all I'm doing is I'm gluing the foam in the bottom and then the stand, and I just hold it down just a little bit in order to give it a good seal. Then this is totally optional, but I dry brushed some, I think it was mineral, and then some ink Waverly chalk paints. I wasn't exactly crazy about how the finish was. Maybe it was elephant. I forget now, and I ended up editing that part out. I just added jute around the top of the bucket, 2 layers of jute, just going around and around and adding a little touch of glue here or there just so that the jute would not fall down. So as you can see here, I was handwriting what I thought I was going to keep on the bucket, but I didn't like it, so I ended up redoing it and then putting something new on, and then adding a gold star and some jute to the top to hang it with. And this is the finished product, and I think it turned out much cuter than what it was originally. So I hope that you like this. If you do, I hope you give it a thumbs up, and put a tree emoji in the description below if you like it. And for the next craft, we are again just going to be putting some styrofoam in the bottom of the bucket, just hot gluing it in there. Just needed, again, for all of these, I just need a base, just so that the items that we're having on top stick up more on top of it. So once you get the size of styrofoam that you want, just hot glue it into the bottom. And then I just, I think I squeezed some more pieces of styrofoam around it, and the reason I did that was because once I start putting the snowballs in there, which is the little cotton balls or whatever they are, I didn't want to have to put a whole bunch in there to take up the space, and I wanted it to look a lot like snow. So here I'm just getting, again, these little balls ready. They're in the crafter square section, and I cannot for the life of me think of what they're called, but they're just little pom-poms. Maybe they're pom-poms. So I just did that. And then I thought, well, I'm just going to freehand, I'm going to freehand snowballs on here. Well, that didn't work out. So you will see that I'm actually freehanding it. It goes on straight. But because this is a round bucket, I was having such a hard time. So in the end, like the trees, I redid it. What I did do was I printed off what I wanted and stenciled it on by hand by using transfer tape. Yeah, not tape, a transfer paper. So I guess I didn't do as I said, and I ended up just shoving some of those cotton balls down along the edges, and then just glued some cotton ball edges at the top, because that's my first layer of my snowball mound. And then I again just added some more to the top. As you can see, it's supposed to be a bucket of snowballs, and so then I just picked up this Dollar Tree ribbon and went ahead and used this to make just a little bow. Well, it wasn't a bow, it's just the hanger for the top of this piece. And that's really it. That's how I finished it off, and it was just real cute, real simple. Just a little snowball bucket that said snowballs 5 cents. And again, like I said, I re-switched what it looked like, and then just used the ribbon. So it was supposed to be a simple task. I just has struggled trying to make the bow. If you were watching that, you could see how much I struggled with that. And see, isn't it just super cute? And all I did was I also took some Waverly White and I actually painted the whole bucket, and then I took some of the elephant and just very briefly dry brushed it. This is after I made the stencil and then redid it, and all I used was a permanent marker. And then for our next and very last project, the one that took me the most just because I struggled with the gnome's hat, we're just going to do the same process. We're going to clean up our little mess with our cute little ladybug, and then we're going to glue another piece of styrofoam into the bottom of the bucket, and then glue that styrofoam head onto that top of the styrofoam that's in the bucket. So I take this hat from the Dollar Tree, and I just thought it would be so cute as a gnome hat because you already have the fur, and it's the red and black buffalo check. So I just cut along the seam. I laid it out and cut along the seam. What I wanted to do is I wanted to try to save it as much as possible. So I tried to rip everything apart and take the scissors and go along the seam and try to get that loose as best as possible. Then I took the ball and I just placed it on top of the fabric and just kept cutting until I figured that the fabric would go around the width of the ball halfway down the ball. And really, you really wanted a little bit more than that because you want excess fabric, and that was where I made my first mistake. I made it so that it just barely fit. Well, once you actually start putting it putting the fabric over the ball and the bucket and everything else, my first plan did not work. So make sure that your fabric is just a hair bigger than what you think you may need. So then I made a second one, which was way too big, and honestly, I don't know what my problem was, but it was way too big. So then all this extra fur that I had, I just was trying to figure out how I could use it. I knew I wanted to have the gnome have a beard. I also thought, you know, it'd be cute if he had a mustache. So I was just trying to look at all the parts, trying to figure out, you know, what I could use and what I wasn't going to end up using for this project. So I set everything aside and decided, you know what, let me try to figure out how I'm gonna fix this hat or how it might look. So this bag of beads that I got from Amazon, I will link that in the description below, but there was multiple different sizes in here, and so I was trying to figure out what I wanted to use for the gnome's nose, and also what I could do for the very tip top of that hat of his. And I thought, you know what, I have all of this fur, let me just wrap it actually around the ball so it'll make it nice and round. And so that's what I ended up doing. So I found the size of ball that I wanted and found a piece of the fur that would go around it, and I had a craft stick, and I don't know where I got it. It has a point on it, and so I stuck that in the end of the bead. That way I could hold it securely on there without burning myself. And I just wrapped that bead around, kept hot gluing it, and then instead of putting the little finger protector on my finger, I just used it to dab the glue around in the places that I needed. And it was so cute when I got done. I was just kind of showing you quickly the craft stick I was using. And then all I did was I hot glued that to the very tip of the hat, and that was it. One and done, nice and simple. So again, I just kept trying to clean up my messes. I made a bigger hat and then a smaller hat, and I kept going back and forth between it, and you'll see the bigger hat again later on. I was trying to figure out how to fit it over the top, and what ended up happening, so then here I'm just working on the beard. I wanted to use the leftover fabric without the fur and fabric without having to cut extra pieces. And so this was actually the tip of the ball of fur that was on the hat originally. And that's all the fur I used, was everything from that ball. I just was able to unglue the glue and the stitches that were holding that ball together. And so this is actually what I'm using for the gnome's beard. And you just stick it on there right up above the pail ridge of the pail. And then I just hot glued one of the beads on for the nose, and I actually put the hole for the bead up and down because the gnome's hat is actually going to cover some of that, of the top of the bead up, and you're not going to see the bottom of that hole. And then I just kept fluffing it out and playing with it. After I got the bead on there, I really wanted to go ahead and put the mustache on. So I put the mustache on just as easily as I could right up underneath of that bead that was on there, and did my best to try to put that hat on there. Now, I did end up going ahead and using this hat, but it had split in the back. And so, oh, you know what? This was the larger one, because that square, that triangle you see there is the one that I pulled apart because it was too small. But then if you notice how much fabric I cut off again way too much. So before it was way too big, and then when I cut it off it was way too small. So in pulling the fabric down and trying to pleat it over the nose, I ended up tearing the back part, which is why when you look at the gnome, that little bead is down in a weird spot because of where that tear in the back is. So if you can, when you tuck the top of that hat over, it should be more toward the side or more toward the front. And as you can see, mine's going to be more toward the back. So don't do as I do, just do as I say. So hopefully that makes sense. And if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below. I'd be more than happy to help you out with that. And again, I'm just trying to fit and crinkle, and see, I'm hot gluing it down. And then you just want to try to crinkle up the front of the hat a little bit so that it gives the indication that it is actually sitting on the nose of the little gnome. And he's so stinking cute. In the previous DIY, we did snowballs in a bucket. So I took these little Dollar Tree tags that are chalkboard tags, and instead of writing snowballs, I thought, let's do a gnome ball. Anyone? And so I put gnome ball and then a question mark. I know it was a little silly, but I thought it was funny. So it was my sense of humor at that time of the day. So if you liked it, or if you would have put something different, just let me know. So I just wrote gnome ball on here again with a question mark. And then I was having a hard time trying to figure out how to hang this. And so you'll see that in just a second. So what I ended up doing was putting jute through that loop made by hot gluing the tip of the hat down, then putting a knot, and then putting the gnome ball tag, and then putting a hoop at the top of that so that it would hang from a tree. And that's how I did it. I still think he's super cute. I mean, look at him, he's so sweet. So I hope that you like these 3 items. Again, these were items just from the Dollar Tree, and the buckets are a normal everyday item that the Dollar Tree carries. So if you enjoyed this, I hope that you like this, share it, give it a big thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, I hope that you will subscribe. And if you have subscribed, I really appreciate you returning. And again, I thank you so much. If there was something that you would rather have seen, or if you have any other suggestions, I am more than happy to hear. So in the meantime, I hope to hear from you again, and please, let's try to see how many emojis we can get down below, and give me a tree emoji. So again, thanks so much, be a blessing, and have a blessed day.